At 3 a.m., I found my stepmother sitting alone in the dark, with the poison that had been killing my father for 6 months. She was a woman I thought I knew, a loving wife, a perfect match for my dad. But Jennifer Hayes wasn't who she claimed to be. Her real name was Nancy Anderson. And 10 years ago, my father made a mistake during surgery that killed her 7-year-old son. This is a story of revenge and the impossible choice that changed everything. I'll never forget walking into that hospital room and seeing what had become of my father. My name is David Miller, and I'm a physician at one of Manhattan's most prestigious medical centers. At 40 years old, I thought I'd seen everything, but nothing prepared me for what I saw that Thursday afternoon. The man lying in that bed was barely recognizable. 6 months earlier, Dr. Robert Miller had been the picture of health. At 65, he stood 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders that made him one of the most respected surgeons in New York. His 175 pounds spoke to his disciplined lifestyle morning runs in Central Park, careful diet, the kind of vitality that made people forget his age. But the figure in that hospital bed weighed maybe 100 pounds. "Dad?" My voice cracked. His cheekbones jutted sharply from his face. His cheeks had sunken so deeply that shadows pooled in the hollows. His once powerful shoulders were nothing but bone beneath papery skin. My father's eyes opened. Slowly, those eyes that once sparkled with confidence now sat deep in their sockets. "David." His voice was barely a whisper. I took his hand, and the feeling made my stomach turn. It was all bone, every knuckle, every vein standing out in sharp relief. "Dad, this level of weight loss, it's not normal." He attempted a smile. "I'm fine, son. Just getting old. I'm a doctor. I know the difference between normal aging and pathological wasting." This was something else. This was a man being consumed from the inside out. My mind raced back 6 months, trying to pinpoint when everything changed. Then it hit me the timeline aligned perfectly with the one event: his wedding to Jennifer. 6 months earlier, my father had been a completely different man. It was a crisp autumn evening at the Plaza Hotel, where New York's medical community gathered for the annual Physicians' Gala. Crystal chandeliers cast elegant light over doctors in tuxedos and evening gowns. And there in the center of it all stood my father. He looked magnificent. His black tuxedo fit perfectly, accentuating his athletic build. His silver hair was styled impeccably. Women half his age were stealing glances as he moved through the crowd with easy confidence. "Dr. Miller, you look absolutely dashing tonight," a young resident said. My father's response was characteristically gracious. "Thank you. That's very kind." At 65, he was at the peak of his career, respected, successful, and still vital. It had been 5 years since my mother passed from cancer. 5 years during which my father threw himself completely into work, declining every blind date, every setup attempt. He'd sealed off that part of his life entirely. That's when she appeared. "Excuse me, Dr. Miller." The voice was smooth, cultured, warm as velvet. My father turned, and I saw his expression shift. A woman stood behind him, striking in a way that had everything to do with presence. Jennifer Hayes, 40 years old, about 5'6", with shoulder-length dark hair, framing an intelligent face. She wore a navy dress that was elegant without being showy. "Dr. Robert Miller, correct?" Her voice was perfectly modulated to put people at ease. "Yes, that's right." My father looked slightly flustered. "Jennifer Hayes. I'm a freelance medical journalist. I've been following your career. Your work in minimally invasive surgery has been groundbreaking." Something about Jennifer's earnest manner made him reconsider his usual refusal of publicity. "Perhaps we could discuss it over coffee?" Jennifer's face lit up. "Really? That would be wonderful." But I couldn't see what the security footage would later show: the brief moment when her eyes went cold as ice before warming again. Finally, she thought, finally it begins. My father completely missed it. He was too busy feeling something he hadn't felt in 5 years, the possibility of opening his heart again. Their coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a concert at Lincoln Center. My father found himself falling fast for Jennifer Hayes. And why wouldn't he? She was perfect. Too perfect. She knew everything about him, his love of classical music, particularly Chopin, his preference for French wine, his philosophy on patient care. It was as if she'd studied him, memorized him, become exactly what he needed. She just understands me, my father told me at brunch one Sunday. His face was animated in a way I hadn't seen since before Mom died. I should have been happy. But something felt off. Dad, don't you think it's moving fast? You've only known her 3 months. At my age, son, you don't waste time. He smiled. I thought you'd be happy for me. 2 weeks later, we met for dinner at Le Bernardin. When they entered together, they made a striking couple. Jennifer was dressed elegantly in black, her dark hair in soft waves. David, meet Jennifer properly. My father boomed his old voice, full of life. It's wonderful to finally meet you, she said. Your father talks about you constantly. Over dinner, I asked the questions any concerned son would ask. How old are you, if you don't mind? 40, she replied without hesitation. 25 years younger than my father. My age. She was smooth. Every answer perfect, every gesture, calculated to demonstrate intelligence and sophistication while putting me at ease. If you're finding the story compelling, please hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Your support helps us share more important stories like this one. Now, let's continue with what happened next. The wedding came quickly. Small ceremony in April at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden during cherry blossom season. Jennifer wore a simple white dress. My father couldn't take his eyes off her. As I watched him say his vows, his voice strong and clear, I felt my doubts slipping away. Maybe this was just what he needed, a second chance at love. For the first few weeks, my father seemed to glow with happiness. But then, about a month after the wedding, I started noticing changes. Subtle at first. He seemed tired. Mentioned feeling run down. Just need more rest, he said, stirring coffee with hands that seemed less steady. Another week passed. His face looked thinner. Dad, you look like you've lost weight. Jennifer's always trying to get me to eat more, he laughed weakly. I think I'm burning more calories being happy. By the second month, changes were undeniable. His clothes hung loose. His face had developed a gaunt quality. Dad, you need to see a doctor. I'm a doctor, David. I know what's normal. I'm just adjusting. But when I suggested tests, he shut me down. I don't need tests. I'm fine. Just let it go. That was unlike him. My father had always advocated for preventive care. His refusal was as alarming as the physical changes. By month 3, my father had lost at least 30 pounds. Colleagues began pulling me aside, suggesting cancer. When I tried again to convince him, he became angry. I said, I'm fine. Why won't anyone believe me? Jennifer put a gentle hand on his arm, looked at me with desperate concern. I don't know what else to do. He won't listen. That's when I decided I was going to find out what was really happening. Even if I had to spy on him, I ordered small wireless cameras and waited for an opportunity. It came when I suggested they go shopping for new clothes. The moment they left, I let myself in. I placed cameras in the living room, kitchen, and hallway. As I worked, I felt like I was betraying his trust. But watching him waste away was worse. I sat at his desk and searched his computer. I tried Jennifer Hayes Medical Journalist. The results were oddly sparse. No professional website, no LinkedIn, no social media. For a 2024 journalist, that was strange. Then I remembered something from the wedding. An older woman had called Jennifer by a different name. Nancy. I typed Nancy and my father's name. The results made my blood run cold. Medical malpractice settlement, 2014. Child dies during routine surgery. Family of 7-year-old seeks justice. 10 years ago, my father had performed an appendectomy on a 7-year-old boy named Tyler Anderson. Something went wrong, a severed blood vessel. The boy died on the operating table. The mother's name, Nancy Anderson. I pulled up a photo. The woman was younger, grief-stricken, but the bone structure, the eyes, they were the same. Jennifer was Nancy Anderson. At that moment, I heard the front door open. I'm exhausted. I need to lie down. My father's voice, weak and tired. They'd come back early. I squeezed into a large armoire in the corner, heart pounding. Footsteps on the stairs. Jennifer's voice. You rest, sweetheart. I'll make you some tea. Now that I knew the truth, I could hear the performance underneath. My father's footsteps retreated, but Jennifer's came toward the study. Through the crack, I watched her enter. She moved to the desk, touched the mouse. The screen lit up. Her eyes narrowed. She looked around slowly, methodically. Her gaze swept past the armoire, then back. My heart was going to explode. Then her phone rang. Hello, yes, this is Jennifer. She stepped into the hallway. This was my chance. I pushed open the door and moved to the window. I climbed through, barely closing it before footsteps returned. I crouched below as Jennifer re-entered. She looked at the window, noticing it was slightly open. Her face changed, the warm expression vanishing like a removed mask. What remained was cold and calculating. Someone was here, she said to herself. I need to speed things up. I stayed frozen for 5 more minutes before daring to move. I had found the truth. Now I just needed proof. Jennifer Nancy had spent 10 years planning this. 10 years transforming herself, becoming exactly what my father needed. All to get close enough to kill him slowly, methodically, painfully, just like her son had died. 4 days. That's how long I watched those camera feeds obsessively, my laptop open every spare moment. The first 3 days showed nothing suspicious. Jennifer playing the devoted wife, preparing meals, helping my father when he was too weak, sitting beside him as he dozed. But I knew better now. I knew who she really was. My wife Sarah found me in our home office at 2 in the morning on the 4th night. David, you need to sleep. You have surgery in 5 hours. I can't. Not until I have proof. What if you're wrong about her? I'm not wrong. I showed her the articles. Nancy Anderson. Her son died because of Dad's mistake, and now she's getting revenge. Sarah's face went pale. Oh my God. We need to call the police. And tell them what? We need evidence first. Day 4, around 3 in the afternoon, gave me what I was looking for. The kitchen camera showed Jennifer preparing dinner. She moved around efficiently chopping vegetables, stirring a pot. My father was in the living room, dozing on the couch. Jennifer filled 2 bowls with soup, one for herself, one for my father. Then she paused. She checked to make sure my father was still asleep. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small plastic bag containing white powder. My breath caught. Jennifer opened the bag and sprinkled the powder into my father's bowl. Not much, just a small amount. She stirred it in, the powder dissolving completely. Oh my God, I whispered. She carried both bowls into the living room, her expression serene. Honey, dinner's ready. My father stirred. Thank you, sweetheart. I watched him take the first spoonful. The soup that was slowly killing him. I saved the video file, backed it up everywhere. This was the proof I needed. But the footage showed something else, too. Around 2 a.m., the hallway camera picked up movement. Jennifer emerging from the bedroom, moving toward the kitchen. She opened a drawer and removed a syringe filled with clear liquid. She stood there, just staring at it. Then her shoulders started shaking. She was crying. Jennifer set the syringe down and gripped the sink. Her whole body trembled. She stood there for several minutes, crying silently. Then she put the syringe back in the drawer and returned to the bedroom. I sat back, confused. A woman methodically poisoning my father, yet breaking down, unable to go through with an injection. I have it. The evidence, I told Sarah. I played the footage. Her hand went to her mouth. David, we have to act now, tonight. We drove through the empty Manhattan streets toward Brooklyn Heights. It was nearly 3 a.m. When we arrived, a single light showed in the kitchen window. I used my key to open the front door quietly. Through the kitchen door crack, I could see Jennifer sitting at the table. In front of her was a small glass bottle of the poison. She was staring at it, her face streaked with tears. I pushed the door open. Jennifer's head snapped up. Recognition and fear flashed across her face. David, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same question. I gestured to the bottle. Jennifer's face crumbled. She didn't try to hide it or make excuses. She just sat there, defeated. How long have you known? Long enough. I know who you really are. Nancy Anderson. I know about Tyler. I know everything. At her son's name, she sobbed. Then you understand why. I understand that you've been murdering my father for 6 months. David, maybe we should. Sarah started. Nancy looked up, tears streaming. He killed my son, my 7-year-old boy. Do you have any idea what that's like? Tyler was everything to me. It was a surgical complication, an accident. Accident? Nancy's voice rose. He went on with his life, got awards, was called a hero while my son was in the ground. Despite everything, I felt sympathy at the pain in her voice. So you decided to marry him? Pretend to love him while you poisoned him? Nancy's face twisted. It was supposed to be easy. I planned for 10 years, changed my face, my identity. I studied him until I knew exactly how to make him fall in love with me. Then what went wrong? I did. Nancy's voice broke. I fell in love with him too. He was so kind, so gentle. The way he looked at me, she dissolved into sobs. Every time I put that powder in his food, I died inside, Nancy continued. Every time I saw him getting weaker, I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. Tyler deserved justice. This isn't justice. This is revenge. I know. That's why I've been sitting here trying to decide whether to finish it tonight or throw it all away. Where's my father? Asleep upstairs. I moved toward the stairs, but Nancy stood quickly. Wait. Before you call the police, there's something you need to know. What? Your father knows. I froze. What do you mean? He knows who I am. He knows what I've been doing. He's known from the beginning. The room tilted. That's impossible. He's a doctor, David. A brilliant doctor. You think he couldn't tell? He knew within the first month. Then why didn't he stop you? Because he thinks he deserves it. The guilt of what happened to Tyler has been eating him alive for 10 years. He let me do it because he believed it was his punishment. I don't believe you. Ask him yourself. He's probably awake. He doesn't sleep much anymore. I took the stairs 2 at a time. I burst into the bedroom. My father was sitting up in bed, looking impossibly frail but alert. David, I was wondering when you'd figure it out. Dad, is it true? Do you know what she's been doing? Yes, I've known almost from the start. And you just let her? I killed her son, David. Not intentionally, but I killed him. That mistake has haunted me every day for 10 years. It was a complication. These things happen. That doesn't make it hurt less. He reached toward Nancy. Come here. Nancy moved to the bed and sat beside him. My father took her hand. When I realized who she was, I was actually relieved. Finally, someone was going to hold me accountable. Dad, that's insane. But then something unexpected happened. I fell in love with her. Really, truly in love. And she'd fallen in love with me too. He looked at Nancy, and I realized that my death wouldn't bring her peace. It would just destroy us both. So what are you saying? I'm saying it's time to stop. No more poison. No more revenge. No more guilt. It's time for both of us to choose life instead of death. Nancy sobbed. But Tyler? Tyler wouldn't want this. No child would want their parent to destroy themselves. He'd want you to be happy. To live. To love. I don't know if I can forgive you, Nancy whispered. I don't need you to forgive me. I need you to forgive yourself for falling in love with me, for being human. They held each other, both crying. Finally, my father looked at me. Son, I know this is a lot, but I'm asking you to give us a chance. I looked at Nancy. I saw a woman destroyed by grief who'd made terrible choices, but I also saw genuine remorse and real love. I don't know yet, I said honestly. Ask me again when Dad's healthy. It was the best answer I could give. My father spent 2 weeks in the hospital. The chelation therapy was brutal, but Nancy stayed by his side every day, every night. Mrs. Miller, we need to understand the dosing schedule, Dr. Patterson said on day 3. Nancy pulled out a small notebook. I kept records, every dose, every date, every symptom. The doctor's face went pale. You documented everything you were doing to him? I think part of me knew that eventually I'd need to help save him instead of kill him. Dr. Patterson looked at my father. Robert, you knew? Yes. And you said nothing? That's correct. Just help me get better, my father said quietly. I visited every day. Sometimes alone with Dad, sometimes watching them together. Are you angry with me? my father asked once when we were alone. Yes, I'm furious you'd let yourself be poisoned. It wasn't giving up. It was accepting consequences. That's the same thing, Dad, he sighed. Carrying the weight of Tyler's death for 10 years, it was crushing me. When Nancy appeared, when I realized who she was, part of me felt relief. Finally, someone was holding me accountable. I love her, son. I know it's complicated, but I love her. I couldn't argue with that. I'd seen it in his eyes. By week 3, my father was improving. Color returned to his face. He'd regained 15 pounds. Nancy, however, seemed to be deteriorating. The guilt was eating her alive. Sarah and I invited her to dinner. She looked terrible, dark circles, clothes hanging loose, hands constantly fidgeting. When's the last time you ate a real meal? Sarah asked. I'm not sure. You need to take care of yourself. Dad needs you healthy too. Nancy's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve to be healthy. I tried to murder your father. Starving yourself won't change what happened, I said. It won't bring Tyler back, and it won't help Dad. I don't know how to move forward. How do I look in the mirror? Sarah took her hand. One day at a time. With honesty, with effort to be better. Do you think I'm a monster? Nancy asked me. I considered carefully. I think you're someone who was destroyed by grief and made monstrous choices. But monsters don't feel remorse. They don't fall in love with their intended victims. Nancy started crying. I miss Tyler so much. Every single day. Tell us about him, Sarah said softly. For the next hour, Nancy told us about Tyler, his love of animals, his infectious laugh, his favorite books. As she talked, her face came alive. He sounds like he was an amazing kid, I said. He was. Nancy wiped her eyes, and I've dishonored his memory with what I've done. Tyler was kind. He wouldn't want me to hurt anyone. So honor him now, Sarah said. Be the person he'd want his mother to be. My father was discharged in early December. When I visited 2 days later, the house had been transformed. Photos everywhere. Photos of Tyler. Tyler as a baby, on his first day of school, holding ice cream, dressed as a superhero for Halloween. Nancy's idea, my father said. She was tired of hiding him. If we're going to move forward honestly, Tyler needs to be part of our lives. I found Nancy upstairs in the spare bedroom, hanging photos on the wall. A beautiful display Tyler's life captured chronologically from birth to age 7. What do you think? She asked. It's beautiful. Robert suggested it. He said I needed a place to properly grieve, to remember Tyler as he was. He was more than the boy who died on the operating table. Dad seems better. He is. We're starting therapy next week, both together and separately. That's good. David, I need to ask, are you going to press charges? I need to know. I'd been dreading this question. I spoke with a prosecutor friend. Hypothetically, she said they could potentially build a case, but that prosecutors often decline when the victim is uncooperative and there's genuine remorse. What are you saying? I've decided not to go to the police. But there are conditions. Anything. First, continue therapy for at least a year. Second, volunteer somewhere that helps grieving families. Third, complete honesty with me, always. And fourth, you never harm my father again. Not physically, not emotionally. I promise, Nancy said, tears streaming. I promise all of it. We went downstairs. I told them my decision. My father's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, son. Don't make me regret it. We won't, Nancy said firmly. Over the following weeks, I watched them carefully. But what I saw was 2 people genuinely trying to heal. They went to therapy twice a week. My father talked about his guilt, his tendency toward self-punishment. Nancy worked through her grief and her own guilt. She started volunteering at a bereavement support group. One evening in late January, I stopped by unexpectedly. Through the window, I saw them reading and working on laptops. Every few minutes, they'd look at each other and smile. Domestic, peaceful, real. Over dinner, they told me about their week. My father had returned to work part-time. Nancy had been asked to speak at a conference about grief. They want me to share my story. Not the poisoning part, but about losing Tyler and finding a way forward. What would you say? The truth. That I lost my son in a medical tragedy. that I spent years consumed by hatred, that I nearly destroyed myself seeking revenge, and that the only thing that saved me was choosing forgiveness over hate. I think it could help people. I think Tyler would want me to, Nancy said softly. My father squeezed her hand. The gesture was so natural, so full of affection, that my last reservations began to fade. These two broken people had somehow created something real from tragedy. Spring arrived with hope. It had been nearly a year since that terrible night. Nancy suggested a memorial service. It's been 10 years since Tyler died. I think it's time to properly say goodbye, to honor him the way he deserved. What did you have in mind? Sarah asked. A small ceremony at Greenwood Cemetery where he's buried. Plant a tree there, something living. Tyler loved nature. She turned to me. Would you come? You're family now. Of course, I said. The ceremony was planned for April 15th, exactly 10 years after Tyler's death. The morning was perfect. Clear sky, warm sunshine, gentle breeze. Nancy led us to Tyler's grave. The headstone read, Tyler James Anderson, 2007-2014, Forever 7, Forever Loved. Fresh flowers sat in the holder. I come every week, Nancy said. Robert comes with me now. Nancy knelt and touched the headstone. Hi, baby. Mama's here. I brought some people to meet you. She pulled out a small oak sapling. We're going to plant this tree right here. It'll grow big and strong, give shade to your spot. My father knelt beside her and helped dig the hole. They worked together in synchronized silence. Before placing the sapling, Nancy spoke again. Tyler, Mama made some really bad choices after you died. I tried to hurt someone, Dr. Miller, the man who operated on you. My father closed his eyes but kept his hand on her shoulder. But baby, I learned that revenge doesn't make the pain go away. It just creates more pain. So I'm asking you to forgive me. And I want you to know I'm okay now. I found love again, and I hope you'd be happy about that. My father spoke then. Tyler, my name is Robert Miller, and I'm the doctor who made the mistake that ended your life. I've thought about you every single day for 10 years. I'm so sorry I didn't save you. He paused, struggling. But your mother has taught me that we can't change the past, but we can choose how we move forward. So I'm making you a promise. I promise to take care of your mother, to love her, to honor her for the rest of my life. They placed the sapling in the ground together and poured water over the roots. Your turn, Nancy said to me. I stepped forward. Tyler, I'm David. Robert is my father. I didn't know you, but I know what your death did to everyone. I know it broke your mother and my father. I looked at them. But somehow, through all that pain, something unexpected happened. Two people who should have been enemies found a way to love each other. They've taught me about forgiveness and grace. I touched the tree. I promise to remember you and to honor your memory by choosing love over hate. Sarah stepped forward. Tyler, I'm a mother now. She placed her hand on her belly, 4 months pregnant. I think about you a lot, about how precious life is. I promise to tell my child about you. Nancy gasped and hugged Sarah tightly. Congratulations. My father embraced me. A grandfather. I'm going to be a grandfather. We stood together, 4 people bound by tragedy and choice. Nancy pulled out letters. I wrote these, one to Tyler, one to Robert, one to David, one to myself. I'm burying Tyler's here. She read Tyler's letter aloud, talking about how she'd lost herself and found herself again. How she'd found love in an unexpected place. How his life mattered, not just because of how he died, but how he lived. She buried the letter next to the oak tree. We sat in the grass and Nancy told us stories about Tyler. Happy stories, funny stories. We laughed there in the cemetery and somehow it felt right. As afternoon wore on, we finally prepared to leave. Thank you for coming, Nancy said. It means more than you know. Thank you for including us, I replied, for letting us be part of this. You are part of this, part of the family. A strange, complicated, unconventional family, but family nonetheless. We stopped at a cafe. Nancy mentioned she'd been asked to write a book about grief and forgiveness. You should do it, my father encouraged. Your story could help people. I opened my letter from Nancy. She wrote about how I could have destroyed her, but chose mercy instead. How that gift saved her life and gave her a chance at redemption. She called me her son now and thanked me for giving her a chance to prove people can change. I folded it, throat tight with emotion. Sarah and I drove home as evening settled over the city. That was beautiful, Sarah said. Sad, but beautiful. Yeah, are you really okay with all of this? I'm accepting of it. I believe they're genuinely trying to build something good from something terrible. Sarah placed my hand on her belly. Like this little one. Something good from love. The best thing. Over the following months, we became what Nancy had called us, a family. Strange, complicated, unconventional, but real. The oak tree was growing. Nancy sent photos, tiny leaves unfurling, new growth reaching toward the sun. Living proof that even from death and pain, life finds a way forward. Tyler's death would always be a tragedy, but his memory honored by people trying to be better, to love more deeply, that was a gift. A gift none of us had asked for, but one we were learning to receive with gratitude. 6 months after the memorial service, Sarah gave birth to our son. We named him Tyler Robert Miller. When we told my father and Nancy, they both cried. Nancy held the baby with trembling hands, tears streaming down her face. "Hello, Tyler," she whispered. "Welcome to the world, little one." We wanted to honor both of them, Sarah explained. Tyler Anderson, whose memory brought us all together, and Robert, who taught us about forgiveness. My father stood beside Nancy, one hand on her shoulder, looking at his grandson with pure joy. "He's perfect," he said softly. "Absolutely perfect." Nancy looked up at me, her eyes questioning. "Are you sure? Using Tyler's name, are you sure you're okay with this?" "We're sure," I said firmly. "Tyler Anderson deserves to be remembered, and our son will grow up knowing the story age-appropriate versions as he grows. He'll know about the boy whose life mattered, whose death changed people." Nancy handed the baby back to Sarah and hugged me tightly. "Thank you, David. Thank you for everything." Little Tyler was 3 months old when Nancy's book was published. It was called From Revenge to Redemption, A Mother's Journey Through Grief. The cover was simple, a single oak tree against a blue sky. Nancy had changed all the names and identifying details, but the story was there. The loss of her son in a medical tragedy. The years consumed by hatred. The elaborate plan for revenge. The unexpected discovery of love. The choice to forgive and move forward. The book became a quiet success. Not a bestseller, but something better, a book that found its way to the people who needed it most. Parents who'd lost children. People consumed by desire for revenge. Anyone struggling to move beyond tragedy. Nancy donated all the proceeds to a foundation she and my father had established, the Tyler Anderson Memorial Fund, which provided grief counseling for families who'd lost children in medical accidents. "This is what Tyler would have wanted," Nancy said at the foundation's launch event. "Not revenge, not bitterness. Help for others going through what we went through." My father stood beside her at the podium. He looked healthy now, fully recovered, his weight back to normal. He was teaching part-time at the medical school, mentoring young surgeons. Medical errors happen, he told his students. We're human, but how we respond to those errors that defines us. We acknowledge them, we learn from them, and we do everything in our power to prevent them from happening again. On Tyler Anderson's 11th anniversary, we all returned to Greenwood Cemetery. The oak tree had grown significantly. It was now about 8 feet tall, its branches spreading wide, leaves rustling in the breeze. Little Tyler, now walking, toddled between the headstones, while Sarah kept a careful eye on him. Nancy knelt at the grave as always, but this time she wasn't crying. She was smiling. "Hi, baby. Look how big your tree has grown. Just like you would have grown." She gestured to little Tyler. "And this is your namesake. He's beautiful and healthy and so loved. I think you'd like him." My father knelt beside her. "Tyler, we're doing okay. Better than okay. We're happy. And we're making sure your life meant something, helping other families. Teaching doctors to be better. Showing people that forgiveness is possible." Little Tyler wandered over and plopped down on the grass near the headstone, fascinated by a ladybug crawling on a leaf. Nancy laughed. The original Tyler loved bugs too. Remember? He wanted to be an entomologist one week, then changed his mind to veterinarian, then astronaut. He wanted to be everything, my father remembered. He had so many dreams. We sat there together, 3 generations connected by tragedy and choice, by pain and healing. Sarah took photos of little Tyler near the oak tree. For when he's older, she said, so he can see where his name came from. As we prepared to leave, Nancy stood and touched the tree trunk. It was strong now, rooted deep, reaching high. Thank you, she said to the tree, to the grave, to the memory of her first son. Thank you for teaching me that love is stronger than hate. That forgiveness is braver than revenge. That life, even after terrible loss, can still be beautiful. That evening, all of us gathered at my father and Nancy's brownstone for dinner. It had become a weekly tradition, Sunday dinners with the whole family. Nancy had become an amazing cook, and the house always smelled wonderful. Little Tyler sat in his high chair, making a mess of his mashed sweet potatoes, while we talked and laughed. I got another speaking invitation, Nancy mentioned over dessert. A medical conference in Boston. They want me to talk to doctors about the patient-family perspective. You should go, my father encouraged. Your voice matters in these conversations. Will you come with me? Of course, always. They'd become inseparable over the past 2 years. Not in a clingy way, but in the comfortable partnership of 2 people who'd been through hell together and come out the other side stronger. After dinner, my father pulled me aside. I want to show you something. He led me to his study and opened a drawer. Inside was a framed photo, the one from Nancy's memorial room, showing 7-year-old Tyler grinning at the camera with an ice cream cone. I keep this here, my father said, so I never forget. Never forget what I took from the world. Never forget the weight of my mistakes. But also, he added, touching the frame gently, never forget what his loss taught me about humility, about grace, about the incredible capacity humans have for forgiveness. You've really changed, Dad. We both have. Nancy and I, we've become better people through the worst experience of our lives. I don't know if that's redemption exactly, but it's something. It's enough, I said. It's more than enough. As Sarah and I drove home that night, little Tyler asleep in his car seat, I thought about how far we'd all come. 2 years ago, I'd been consumed with anger and confusion, watching my father waste away, discovering a conspiracy of revenge that should have destroyed our family. But somehow, impossibly, it had brought us closer instead. My father had learned to forgive himself. Nancy had learned to choose life over death, love over hate. I'd learned that families are complicated, that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and that sometimes the most broken people can create the most beautiful things when they commit to healing. What are you thinking about? Sarah asked. Just how strange life is, how the worst things can sometimes lead to unexpected grace. You think Tyler, the first Tyler, would approve of all this? I think, I said slowly, that a 7-year-old boy who wanted to be a veterinarian because he loved animals, who narrated his life like a sports announcer, who had a kind heart, I think that boy would want his mother to be happy, would want the people touched by his death to become better, not bitter. I think so too. We pulled into our driveway. I carefully lifted sleeping little Tyler from his car seat, his small body warm and heavy in my arms. This child, named for tragedy but born into love, this child who would grow up knowing his family's complicated history, but also knowing the power of forgiveness and second chances. As I carried him inside and laid him in his crib, I whispered, "You're named after someone brave, little man. Someone who taught us all important lessons, even though he was only here for 7 years. I hope you grow up to be like him, kind, curious, full of joy." Little Tyler stirred but didn't wake. Sarah came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. "We're going to be okay," she said. "All of us." "Yeah," I agreed. "We really are." The oak tree in Greenwood Cemetery continued to grow year after year. Birds nested in its branches. Squirrels played on its trunk. It provided shade and beauty and life. Just as Nancy had promised, it became a living memorial not to death, but to the possibility of transformation. to the truth that from the darkest soil, the strongest trees can grow. My father and Nancy stayed together, their love deepening with each passing year. They traveled, they worked with their foundation, they spoiled their grandson, and they honored Tyler's memory not with grief alone, but with purpose. I returned to full-time practice at the hospital, but I carried the lessons of those difficult years with me. I was more careful, more compassionate, more aware that every patient was someone's precious child, someone's beloved parent, someone's whole world. And little Tyler grew healthy, happy, curious about everything. When he was old enough to understand, we would tell him his story, the full, complicated, beautiful truth of it. We would tell him about the boy who shared his name, about tragedy and forgiveness, about a grandmother who'd made terrible choices but found her way back to grace, about a grandfather who'd learned that accepting consequences wasn't the same as accepting defeat. We would tell him that families are complicated, that love can grow in unexpected places, and that the human capacity for change and forgiveness is perhaps the most miraculous thing of all. The story that had started with revenge and poison had transformed into something no one could have predicted, a testament to the resilience of the human heart, to the power of love over hate, and to the truth that we always have a choice. We can choose bitterness or growth. We can choose revenge or redemption. We can choose death or life. My father and Nancy had chosen life. And in doing so, they'd given all of us an unexpected gift, the knowledge that even from the deepest pain, healing is possible. That even in the darkest night, dawn eventually comes. That even after the most terrible losses, love finds a way. Years later, on what would have been Tyler Anderson's 21st birthday, we gathered once more at Greenwood Cemetery. The oak tree towered above us now, magnificent and strong. Young Tyler, now 8 years old, climbed carefully on its lower branches while we watched. Nancy and my father, both gray-haired now but still healthy and devoted to each other, stood hand in hand beneath the tree. "Happy birthday, baby," Nancy said to the grave, "to the sky, to the universe. Look what grew from your life. Look what you taught us. Look what you gave us." My father added, "You'd be so proud of your mom, Tyler. She's helped hundreds of families through their grief. She's made your life matter in ways that honor who you were." Young Tyler called down from the tree, "Grandma Nancy, can you tell me another story about the first Tyler?" "Of course, sweetheart. Come down here and I'll tell you about the time he rescued a baby bird that fell from its nest." As Nancy told the story, I looked around at my family, at Sarah, at my son, at my father, at the woman who had once tried to destroy him, but had instead found redemption. This strange, complicated, unconventional family. This beautiful, imperfect, real family. Built on tragedy, yes, but also built on choice, the choice to forgive, to heal, to love despite everything. And that, I realized, was the true memorial. Not just the oak tree growing strong and tall, but the lives we'd built together, the love we'd chosen over hate, the future we'd created from the ashes of the past. Tyler Anderson had lived only 7 years, but his impact would echo for generations. That was a legacy worth honoring. That was a life that truly mattered.